Okay, today we are looking at 2.3 in your textbook. 2.3 is on page 117, and we are going to be talking about today using what's called a matrix, and you're going to need a calculator, so make sure you have a calculator, and I would suggest, as always, you clear that calculator. Alright, and today for our matrix button, it's this blue matrix right under math and right above x negative 1, which is the inverse button. So we're going to hit second and that x negative 1 button. I'll show you what that looks like. And it's going to come up to this matrix screen. Alright, to enter anything in, you must go to edit. So when we edit a matrix, we can then, the first matrix is called A, B, C, D. If you just hit enter, then you are now in what's called this matrix mode. And we'll talk about today how to determine the size of your matrix, which is called the dimensions. Okay, this would be a 1 by 1 matrix. We'll talk about the elements in the matrix. So this would be an element 0. This answer would be 0, or it could be a 5, for example. If 5 was our element, whatever it is. And then we're going to do things like matrix operations, addition, subtraction, and multiplication. We can do all that in the calculator. Very, very simple to do. Okay. So first off, we need to understand how to figure these dimensions out. Alright, the dimensions are simply the size of the matrix. And you get the size by figuring out the number of rows and the number of columns in a matrix. Okay? Number of rows and number of columns. So that's one of our key bullet points on the day. Okay? We also want to specify matrix elements. And to be an element is simply the value in a specific row slash column of a matrix. And then at the end we will do things like adding, subtracting, and multiplying matrices. And it's no different than adding, subtracting, multiplying numbers. Like 2 times 2 is 4, or 3 plus 5 is 8, and etc. Very, very simple to do. We just have to be able to know how to do it. Okay? So these are very, very good programs, matrices, because it will make life a lot easier, especially when you're doing complex solving of systems, kind of like the last section, which was 3 variables, and that becomes a little complicated. So on the back, we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these things. Okay? Matrix, plural, is matrices, so I want you to read through this, make sure you understand what a dimension is. We just talked about it. A square matrix, what do you think a square is? We'll talk about them. And then all these matrix elements. Okay, and notice all these things have numbers, all of them, and that kind of tells you what this means. I and J, they use these letters A sub I, J. And I would be the first number, like 21 would be 2 is your I. 1 would be the J number. And what these represent is simply the row number and the column number. So very weird because you kind of go different ways. So rows go side to side. That's row 1, row 2, row 3, etc. Alright, and columns go up and down. This is column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, etc. They're going to go up and down. So this element, it's called right here, would be the second row, second column. Alright, so this is the A matrix. They always call the elements the same letter as the matrix name. So here's an A matrix. A matrix, you always count it by rows first, then columns. So it kind of traces the letter L. The rows and then over on the column. So this would be the second row, 1, 2. Second column, 1, 2. Row, column, 2, 2 makes a 22. Okay? So, for example, you're going to read through this, understand what's going on, but if I asked you what element is this number 7, right here where my pen is, it would be on the E row and the 12 column. Well, that would be row 1, 2, 3, so third row, column 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be called A, because it's the A matrix, 34. Alright, so read through all these, see if you can understand what's going on. But in this case, what does each row represent and each column represent? So read through this, see if you can identify those things first. I'm going to pause this, check the answers with your table. Alright, you should have had enough time to write those down. if you pause the video, we should hopefully see that rows are shoe width. These are the rows. C, D, E, double E are the widths. And the columns up and down are sizes, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. All right, the next part, if you flip over, is talking about dimensions. All right, the dimensions of the matrix are how many rows and how many columns are in this whole big matrix. So I'm going to slide this back over. And as you can see here, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 total rows. And we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total columns. So the dimensions from before are the number of rows and the number of columns that we have in our total matrix. So when we look at number 2 and it says, what are the dimensions of this matrix? You would say this is a 4 rows, by 5 columns matrix. And the easiest way to figure that out is kind of trace the letter L from the side. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and then go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. So it's always number of rows by columns, and if you trace a capital L, it kind of makes it easy. Okay? All right, the elements. Let's figure out each element. They want to know what is the value of the element A34. So A34, if I come to my thing here, A34, A is our name of our matrix. 34 represents the third row, fourth column. So let's see, third row, 1, 2, 3 rows, so we're in the E row. And the fourth column is 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's number 12 columns. So the third row, 12th column, hey, look at that. That would be the element 7 in the third row, fourth column. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say this is going to equal the number 7. And the reason is because it's third row, fourth column. So fill in that with your table and come back and check your answers. All right, you should have had enough time there to check that. Always pause between each time I give you a directive. And hopefully you got that 2 is the element in the 45th row and 5 is the element in the second row, first column. I said 45th here. Fourth row, fifth column is 2. Second row, first column is 5. So with your table, I want you to do number 4 the exact same way. What's the dimensions? What's the element of 10E shoes? You're going to write the element, and since this case you're writing it, everything here will be the B notation, kind of like this B. You're going to write that here. And you're going to tell me what's the difference between B42 versus B24. Go ahead and do that, and make sure you check your answers with the key. Okay, when you're finished with that, go on to number 5, which is page 120. We need to make sure we read this, and keep in mind we've been doing this about Fleet Feet. I've been bad about reading these, but this is on page 118, back at our beginning. This is the Fleet Feet Shoe Store Company, and this is the type of shoes they had, because you should have read through that. And then on the next page, on the back of this one, this is again the Fleet Feet Shoe Store in a neighboring town. They have different sizes. But then on the back, we're going to start doing some of these problems. So I want you to determine all the total. So this is now addition. This is where we have matrix addition. And the reason it's matrix addition is because we want to find the total of all of the stores. So we are going to figure out how to combine that totally. Okay? And when we are doing this problem, we're going to basically rewrite all of our values in each matrix. And we're going to make one really big matrix. So I want you to do that. Come back and check with your key here. This will be my key on the desk. You can check with it. And then tell me how you did that. So we're going to do 6A and 6B. All right, then we're going to, or sorry, that's 5A and 5B. Then we're going to go down here to 6, and we're going to do A and B on this one. Check your answers. When you're finished, we're going to go on to 7. These are all things you are required to do for the day. All right, number 8, A and B. And then we are going to go into actually figuring out number 9, how to calculate A plus B. Remember, we're just going to combine all the numbers to make A's matrix. Here's A. And B's matrix. Here's B all together. So combine all those. And then once you're finished with that, check everything out. Pause this video until then, and then I'm going to talk to you strictly about how to enter all of this into the calculator so you don't have to do it by hand. Alright, hopefully you've had time to check everything, and now what I want to do is all the same exact stuff, but with a graphing calculator, because we have this matrix operation. So the first thing I did is cleared my calculator again. Alright, so we can enter all this stuff into the matrix on the calculator, and then we can figure out how to add, subtract, multiply all these matrices, and it makes life real easy because it'll real quick get us the answer. But before you do this, you must know A, where this matrix button is, obviously. It's second x negative 1, or second inverse. And then you must know the size of your matrix. Okay, so they are talking about on this page the adding of matrix A plus matrix B here from the previous example. Okay, and that previous example was on page 121, and I think that's on the front here for me. And they want to add these two matrices here up at the bottom. Here is A and here is B. We want to add those together. The very simple way to do that is to first identify the dimensions. Well, the dimensions of A are 2 rows. So we always make like a capital L. There are 2 rows and 1, 2, 3 columns. So this is a 2 by 3 matrix. The B matrix is also 2 rows and 3 columns. So it is also a 2 by 3 matrix. If you make that capital L, you just count how many things are there. So we're going to go to the calculator. We're going to go second matrix. And to enter in our matrix, we must go over here to Edit, and we're going to hit Enter, and we're going to enter the A matrix. And notice right here now we have these little spaces at the top. Those are the dimensions. We want a 2 by 3, so hit 2, Enter, 3, Enter. And the easiest way to always check is it's going to naturally build the matrix you want. It should have the same rows and same columns. Okay, works perfectly. From here, all you do is enter the number that you want in each space and hit Enter between. So I want a 1 there. Hit Enter. It'll scroll over. -5, 4, 0, -2, and 7. I hit Enter every single time. Once I'm finished, I want to go enter in the B matrix. So I got to go back to my main screen, or I have to go back to the process rather. I'm going to hit Second Matrix. To edit it, I have to go Edit and then down to B. It's kind of a little cumbersome, but that's how you have to do it. I'm going to enter the dimensions, 2 by 3, and I'm going to enter in all my elements, 3, -2, 1, -8, 5, and 9. And notice we're always entering in our elements by the rows. And at this point I'm finished. I'm going to go back to my home screen. Okay? And we can do exactly this now. If we want to calculate A plus B, we can do exactly that. We're going to go back to our matrix screen, and we've already edited it, so we don't need to edit. Now we just want to highlight it. And it's already highlighted on A, so since I want A, I'm going to hit Enter, and it's going to take it to the home screen. We want to take A and we want to add it to B. So plus, go find your other matrix by hitting the matrix. You don't need to edit it, so don't edit it. Just go down to number 2 under Names, hit Enter, and there's your A plus B. And when you hit Enter the 3rd time here, it is going to bring up your result. And there it is. It even gives you it in the right form and fashion. So we could easily now say that this matrix came up to the value of 4, -7, +5, -8, 3, and +16. And if you look on the last page, that is the exact answer as well. This should be the same answer that you calculated earlier. So I want you to use that exact same information. Calculate A minus B this time on your calculator. Then they're going to give you all of these values on 12. All right? I want you to figure out if you can add these matrices, like for example, type the A in and type B in. Can you add them? Can you subtract them? Some of them you can add, some of you cannot add. And I want you to figure out which ones can be added together, which ones cannot. Okay, and you should figure out them based off of rows and columns, rows and columns, rows and columns, rows and columns, rows and columns. And keep that in mind what the rows and columns are. It's going to help you answer that question. Okay, when you're done, flip all the way over to, let's see, page 126. This is page 126. All right. With your team, you are going to work on problem 2. All of problem 2, which means number 1, number 2, number 3 on page 126. On the back, when you get to there, you're going to walk through and do number 4, number 5, number 6, and then they kind of walk through some more information down here at the bottom that will help you out a little bit in order to complete number 7, number 8, And then, all of this is calculator, so it sounds like a lot, but it's not that long. And then number 9, you're going to multiply instead of add. So you're going to type in the F, type in the D, multiply them together, tell me what your new matrix is. And you must have the little brackets around your matrix. Multiply D and F, tell me what the answer is. Multiply E and D, tell me what the answer is. Okay? And by the time you're done with number 9, you should hopefully have a pretty good understanding of how to do the matrix orientation. And we're going to stop after number 9, so you are good to go. Pick up the homework page once you are finished with all those. You must check your answers before you just start on the homework. Check to make sure you're doing this right. Start on the homework when you are finished. It will be due on the due date in Google Classroom, as well as all notes. Check those out and answer keys as well. Thank you guys. Have a great day. See you next class period.